Equals the sun began its slow descent behind the cluster of trees that framed my backyard, casting shadows long and twisted across the neatly mowed lawn. I could hear the distant laughter of children playing, their voices a sweet reminder of the simplicity that often eluded my adult life in the quaint, sleepy town of Breezeville. The scent of fresh grass mixed with the slightly musty odor of the old oak tree that stood proudly in the corner of my yard. It had seen more seasons than I had years, and I often found myself leaning against its gnarled trunk, contemplating things I didn't want to think about. I gripped my favorite beer, an amber bottle that felt cool against my palm, taking a long swig as I looked out onto the quiet street. It looked like a postcard of suburban perfection: white picket fences, tidy gardens bursting with color, and the occasional car trundling past with the windows down, its radio playing soft melodies that drifted through the air. But something shifted, a whisper of unease that haunted my thoughts. As I took another swig of beer, the familiar voice of my neighbor Linda broke through the calm. "Clint, hey Clint." I turned to see her waving from her porch, a warm smile plastered on her face. She wore a flowery sundress that danced around her knees as she trotted over, her golden brown hair bouncing with each step. "You're looking good," she called out. I managed a smile despite the heaviness that clung to my chest. "Thanks, Linda, just enjoying the weather. You should come over for dinner sometime. I could whip up that lasagna you like," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You know I can't resist that," I replied, the corners of my mouth twitching upward, "but I might take you up on that." "How's Bill?" "Busy as usual, poor guy. He's buried under paperwork at the office," she sighed, shaking her head. "But enough about me. How about you? Any plans for the weekend?" I leaned against the oak tree as the sun dipped lower, shadows deepening. "Not much, just planning to catch up on some reading." "You're always reading. You should join us for game night. We'd love to have you," she suggested, bright and hopeful as ever. I hesitated, the thought of socializing unsettling. "Maybe next time." "I've got some things to take care of," I replied carefully, not wanting to hurt her feelings. "Oh, all right, just know there's always a place for you," she called back as I walked away, her voice peeling away into the evening. I turned my attention back to the heights of the trees that shadowed the street, the dread settling deeper in my bones. I could still hear the shouts of laughter, splashes from the pool down the road, and the warm wind ruffled my hair. Each happy sound felt like a knife twisting in my gut. It reminded me of what I had lost. The image of my brother, Tom, flashed before my mind, the carefree grin on his face as he challenged me to yet another football game when we were kids. The memory was like a thin layer of ice. All it took was the tiniest spark to shatter it into a million pieces. "Damn it," I muttered under my breath. I turned and walked inside my house, the door creaking slightly as it swung open. The smell of my old leather couch wrapped around me as I sank deep into its embrace, allowing my mind to wander. I glanced at the photographs lining the wall, remnants of a time when laughter flowed freely and happiness was an everyday occurrence. There was the candid shot of Tom and me at a family barbecue, our faces sticky and smiling, surrounded by our parents. I barely recognized the man in that picture anymore, the youthful optimism replaced with bitterness. With a heavy sigh, I removed my boots and stretched my legs as I thought about the injustice that still clawed at me. Tom had been the kind of person everyone loved, charismatic, kind, a shining light. He had a promise to fulfill, dreams of moving to the city and pursuing a passion that was pure, untouched by the muck of reality. But that promise died the day he got into his car, a stupid mistake that should never have taken him away from me. But the truth was that it was not just a mistake. It was something far more sinister. I thought of those dark figures who had pushed him into that reckless lifestyle, guys he thought were friends but were nothing more than vultures waiting to swoop in. They had whispered temptations in his ear, loaded his system with lies until he could no longer see the daylight. And that's when it happened, the moment that shattered my world, leaving behind the debris of grief and unresolved anger. I picked up my phone, the screen lighting up to reveal a message I had saved for myself. "All it takes is one wrong choice." Every word carved into my heart like a knife. I stood and paced my living room, letting the weight of the words wash over me again, contemplating reality, truth, and the bitterness that tasted like copper in my mouth. I clenched my fist around the phone, feeling the raw energy pulsate through my veins. "I will make them pay," I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. I slipped outside again, but the world was now infused with twilight, an eerie blue shroud covering the neighborhood like a blanket that held all of my secrets. Under the growing darkness, the streetlights flickered alive, casting pools of yellow light that illuminated the path. My heart pounded in rhythm with the blood coursing through my body, an ancient purpose awakening in my chest. Beyond the warm lights of the nearby homes, I saw a group of young men lingering around a car parked across the street. Their voices were loud, their laughter punctuating the silence of the night, obscuring the thoughts that were gnawing at my mind. They didn't see me yet, but I could see them clear as day. Each one represented a piece of my broken past, a fragment of pain packed into their careless demeanor. The tops of their heads were painted with the light, casting shadows over their smirking faces. As I moved closer, every step was heavy with intent, my every muscle tensing with suppressed energy. Did you hear about Clint?" One of them said, laughter bubbling beneath his words. "Yeah, poor guy, must be awful losing his little brother like that." Their tone was mocking, the laughter dripping with scorn. I gripped the fence post tightly, my knuckles white with tension. "He's probably just sitting there with a bottle, wallowing in pity," another chimed in, and they all laughed again. A fire burned in my chest, igniting every dark emotion I was trying to suppress. I wanted to scream, to charge at them, and unleash the wrath that had been building like a storm behind my ribcage. "He could have been someone great, you know," one of the figures mused, as if he relished the details of my brother's downfall. "Instead, he took the easy road, just another loser." In that moment, something in me shifted. As those words sunk in, a clarity rolled over me like an ocean wave. This was not merely about revenge. It was a testament to everything Tom had lost, everything I had lost. I could not allow these boys to mock that loss any longer. My gaze hardened as I stepped out of the shadows, my presence slicing through their laughter like a knife. Their laughter died, replaced with surprise. "What's up, Hargrove? Come to join the party." One of them smirked, but the bravado started to fade the closer I got. "You have no idea what you're talking about," I said, my voice low and steady, yet laced with an undercurrent of fury. "You think this is funny, you think it's a joke." I took a breath, trying to rein in the anger simmering just beneath the surface, but the boys just exchanged glances, laughter replaced by uncertainty. "Calm down, man, we were just," one of them stammered, attempting to explain. "What, making fun of my brother? You think he's just a punchline?" My fists were clenched now, my heart racing with the longing for justice that bubbled dangerously close to the surface. The boy who had first spoken shifted on his feet, losing some of his bravado as the gravity of my tone sank in. "Come on, dude, we didn't mean it like that." "No, you meant it exactly like that," I pressed, a fire lighting my words. "You see, you might think you can laugh at a dead man's expense." I took another step closer, every eye on me, the unsaid words of violence hanging in the air like the thick humidity just before a storm. "But I'm here to tell you that your fun and games come with a consequence." Silence enveloped us, time warping as they shifted uncomfortably. Each face burned with the realization that they had grown too bold, too careless with the pain they had sown. "You're crossing a line, Clint," someone warned, fear lacing their voice. But that only stoked the fire within me, a dark determination solidifying in my bones. "No, you're the ones who crossed it long ago," I said softly, every word deliberate and oozing with intent. "And now it's time you face the truth." They turned wary, exchanging glances that spoke of panic now, and I knew I was on the precipice of something bigger. The air felt charged, a promise of things unsaid, a world where I finally wrestled back the power that had been stripped away. "You think you can just walk through life, laughing while others suffer the consequences of your actions?" I asked. "You are going to learn just how wrong you are." And just like that, I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving behind a cacophony of confusion that shattered the stillness of the night. I knew their eyes followed me, but I couldn't turn back. The shadows cloaked me like an armor, and with every step I took towards my house, determination surged through my veins. I would demand answers. I would extract every ounce of pain I felt, and it would be done with purpose. The sun had long vanished, replaced by the indigo blanket of night, yet the fire of revenge smoldered within me, bright and undeniable. The neighborhood felt different now, alive with the possibility of a reckoning that had been brewing for far too long. As I stepped inside and closed the door behind me, sealing myself in the familiar chaos of feelings and memories, I knew this was only the beginning. Tomorrow the real work would begin. I was done being the victim. It was time to take control. The first rays of sunlight broke through the drab horizon, casting a pale light over the small town of Breezeville. I stood at the edge of my apartment balcony, my fingers tightly clutching the cold metal railing, my knuckles turning white from the pressure. The past few days had been a whirlwind of emotions, and now, as I gazed out at the sleepy streets below, memories flooded my mind like an unexpected summer storm. I could still hear the smug laughter of my former boss, Leonard Grayson, echoing in my ears, a sound that stoked the anger simmering just beneath my skin. "You are nothing without me, Clint," he had said, his voice tinged with disdain. Those words cut deeper than any knife, leaving a gaping wound in my pride. I could still feel the heat of that conversation lingering like the oppressive humidity in the air. I had walked into his office, ready for a promotion that I felt I deserved, my heart racing with anticipation. I had done everything he asked of me, worked late nights, sacrificed my weekends, and even put aside personal relationships just to impress him. I had put in the effort, pouring my soul into the job, believing that it would pay off. But when I had opened his office door and met his condescending gaze, I knew I was in for a surprise, a cruel twist that left me spinning. "You really thought you could take the next step," he had laughed, the kind of laugh that reverberates in the chest, making you feel small and insignificant. "No, Clint, you are precisely where you belong under my shadow. Accept it." My fingers trembled as I remembered that moment, and I could almost feel the prick of tears gathering in the corners of my eyes. But I couldn't cry. I wouldn't allow it. Instead, I channeled that pain into something else, something far more primal. The boiling point was here. I had started planning my revenge, and boy, was it going to be sweet. I twisted and turned the ideas in my head like a Rubik's Cube, thinking of every possible way to dismantle his carefully constructed facade. I imagined the look on his face when he realized what I had done. You thought you could break me. Not a chance, I whispered to myself, a fierce determination igniting within me, but I needed to gather my resources first. Revenge is an intricate dance, and I was still piecing together the steps. As I stepped back into my dimly lit apartment, I could hear my phone buzz insistently from the table. I approached it cautiously, half expecting it to be yet another work-related notification that would send me spiraling back into despair. Instead, it was a text from my old college friend Marco. "Hey Clint, let's grab a drink tonight. I want to catch up." Reading those words felt like a lifeline thrown to me in turbulent waters. Maybe it was time to open up. I texted Marco back. "Sounds good. 7 o'clock at the Blue Rooster." The Blue Rooster was a dive bar not far from where I lived. It had the kind of dim lighting that draped everything in warmth, making it the perfect refuge for a soul like mine, one that needed to hide for a little while. I hadn't talked to Marco in ages. We used to be inseparable in college, a duo that could take on the world, but life had slowly pulled us apart. I often wondered if he knew about my current situation, the toxic work environment that had drained me and made me feel like I was walking through a fog that never quite lifted. I took a quick shower, the water refreshing against my skin, washing away the lingering heaviness from the earlier confrontation with Leonard. Once I had dressed, I stood in front of the mirror, running my hands over my hair and straightening my shirt. A mundane ritual, but tonight felt different. I wasn't just dressing to impress someone. I was getting ready to reveal myself to someone who understood me. In some way, I hoped Marco would see the fire in my eyes, the rage that had been bottled for far too long. The Blue Rooster was bustling when I arrived, the familiar smell of fried food and spilled beer wrapping around me like a comforting cloak. The walls were decorated with local memorabilia, photos of community events, and a wooden sign that read "Local Heroes." I made my way to the bar and spotted Marco sitting at a corner table, nursing a drink. My heart did a little leap at the sight of my friend. "Clint," he called out, standing to pull me into a tight embrace. "Long time no see." "Yeah, too long," I replied, slipping into the chair across from him. "How have you been?" "Busy with work, same old stuff. But it's good to take a break," Marco said, his eyes gleaming with nostalgia. "Remember those late-night study sessions over pizza and cheap beer?" He laughed, the sound infectious, pulling me back into memories I cherished. "Oh man, I remember. We had that one professor we absolutely despised. Remember how we would prank him by sending anonymous notes with terrible grades?" I chuckled, shaking my head. "Yes, and those were pretty good notes too. But you were always the mastermind," Marco said with a wink. "What happened to that Clint who made the world fun?" I looked down at my drink, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. It was hard to admit how far I had fallen since those days. I had let the unrelenting pressure from work weigh me down until I could no longer see the humor in life. "I guess life just got serious," I said, forcing a smile. "But in a way, I am back." "Good, I like hearing that. We all need a little fun in our lives," Marco encouraged, clinking his glass against mine. "So what's going on? You look a bit restless." I hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal, but there was something comforting about Marco's presence. "It's work," I admitted. "I lost my job." "Well, I didn't lose it. I was basically thrown out by the guy I worked for. He's a real piece of work, Marco." "Wow, I'm sorry, man. That sucks," Marco replied, his expression shifting to one of concern. "Want to talk about it?" "Yeah, I really do," I said, the words tumbling out. "I put my heart into that job. I gave it everything I had, and then he crushed me. He told me I would never amount to anything without him, and it really got to me." Marco leaned closer, genuinely listening. "What a jerk. You are so much more than your job title. You know that." "Thanks, but it's hard not to feel defeated," I sighed. "But you want to know the irony? I think it's been brewing in me since that day. I used to think I had to play nice and take it all, but now I want revenge." "Revenge on your boss?" he asked incredulously, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. He is the kind of man who gets away with treating people like trash, and I refuse to let him do that to me or anyone else ever again," I confessed, my heart racing at the admission. It felt strangely liberating to say the words aloud. "Okay, I'm listening. How do you plan to get back at him?" Marco looked intrigued, leaning back in his chair. "I have a few ideas. I just need to gather some information about him, things that could expose him for who he really is," I said, my mind racing with possibilities. "He has a lot of skeletons in his closet. All I need to do is dig a little deeper. Show the world that he's not this untouchable king at the top of his tower." "That doesn't sound easy, but it sounds like you've put a lot of thought into this. You really believe you can take him down?" Marco asked, his gaze intense. "Yes, I do," I replied firmly, my resolve hardening with every word. "He needs to experience the consequences of his actions. I can't let him win." "Well, I have to admit, I never thought I would hear those words coming out of your mouth, Clint. But if anyone can pull it off, it's you," Marco said, raising his glass to me, and I touched mine to his. Thanks, I'll take that, but let's just say I am planning. We spent the rest of the night reliving old memories and sharing dreams for the future, my mind still tangled in thoughts about the unfolding plan. Whatever I had to do to bring down Leonard, I would find a way. I felt the anger chase away the heaviness from earlier. It was replaced with the sweet thrill of plotting, the way you feel when you are about to dive into a cool pool on a hot summer day. Maybe this was just the push I needed to feel alive again. As the night wore on, I left the Blue Rooster with renewed purpose, the moonlight casting a silver glow over the streets of Breezeville. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities to dig deeper into Leonard's life, to search for the chinks in his armor. I walked the familiar path back to my apartment, the pavement cool beneath my feet, the crisp night air filling my lungs. The world felt so much larger now, and within its vastness lay the seeds of my revenge, waiting to be planted. Every heartbeat reminded me of the power within my grasp. I wasn't just a pawn in Leonard's game anymore. I was ready to be the player, and I couldn't wait to see how the board would shift. The sun hung low in the sky, bathing Breezeville in a golden light that felt almost unreal. I leaned against the cool steel railing of the bridge that overlooked the river, listening to the gentle lapping of the water below and thinking about everything that had brought me here. Each ripple mirrored the chaos bubbling inside me, an intoxicating mix of anger, determination, and a hint of trepidation. My heart raced as I thought about what lay ahead. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and I could feel my plan tightening around my target like a noose. Today was not about weakness. Today I was going to face Robert, the man who had stolen so much from me, and it was going to be different this time. I took a deep breath and pushed away from the railing. The scent of damp earth and blooming wildflowers filled the air, sharp and sweet. I glanced at my watch. It was nearly 4 in the afternoon. I had asked Robert to meet me here, where the creek forked under the bridge. I wanted it to be public, yet secluded enough to keep prying eyes from wandering too close. I could only imagine how riotous my emotions would be when I finally saw him. Would I be calm, or would the anger seep through, spilling out around the edges of my carefully cultivated facade? With each step toward our meeting place, I rehearsed what I would say. I had so many things to get off my chest, resentments that had simmered for far too long. Rob's was good at twisting words, so if I needed to, I would need to be ready to counter any diversion he might try. My mind flitted over memories of him, his careless laughter, the way he would shove me in good-natured horseplay, but it always felt like a mask for something darker. It meant something different now, didn't it? "Hey, Clint," a voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned sharply to see Robert strolling down the path, hands buried deep in the pockets of his ripped jeans. He wore that same cocky grin, one that used to make my stomach flutter in excitement, but now churned with an urgent fury. I studied him, the way the sun cast shadows across his face, emphasizing the strong jaw and chiseled features that I had once found so appealing but now felt like a curse. "Nice to see you too," I replied, forcing a casual tone, though all the tension in my body betrayed me. I watched him approach, weaving through tall grasses. He stopped a couple of feet away, awkwardly shifting his weight from one foot to the other. The moment felt so heavy, like a trap waiting to spring. "What's up? You sounded serious on the phone," he began, his smile faltering just a little. I folded my arms defensively and swallowed hard, remembering the way he had laughingly admitted to sabotaging my chances last year, how he had rung up the wrong client under my name, destroying what could have been a lucrative deal. The betrayal gnawed at me from the inside, sharp like the edge of a blade. "It's serious, Robert. We need to talk." "About what?" His smile dropped completely, replaced by an expression that seemed equal parts confusion and concern. "About us," I said, my voice colder than I intended. "About what you've done to me." He frowned slightly, brows knitting together. "Look, I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about. Can we not do this here? It's a nice day, man. Stop playing dumb, Rob. You know exactly what I mean." The calm I tried to project was faltering, tremors of anger breaking through the surface. "You know about the deal you wrecked last year. You took everything from me, and then you just walked away." "I didn't mean to mess things up," he replied, his voice wavering slightly. There was something vulnerable beneath the bravado. "It was a freak accident." I clenched my jaw, grounding myself with a tightening breath. No, it was not a freak accident. You did it out of spite. You were jealous because I was finally getting ahead." I felt my heart thump sharply, the mention of jealousy sparking something sinister in the air between us. "You've always been like that, Rob. You can't stand it when someone else is shining brighter than you. You don't know what you're talking about." His frustration erupted outward, his hands flying up in exaggerated defense. "Things are harsh and complicated. I thought we were friends." I let out a sharp laugh, the sound bitter and barbed. "Friends, is that what you call your betrayals? A friend does not hijack another's dreams out of jealousy and pride." His eyes narrowed, a glint of anger flaring up. "I made a mistake, okay? Everyone makes mistakes. We're still friends. You think this is about friendship. You think we can just level the playing field with a heartfelt apology. You took my career, Robert." My voice had risen, echoing beneath the bridge. I didn't care if anyone heard. No one would stand up for him here, and I will not let you take anything else from me. He stepped back slightly, as though my words physically hit him. "What do you want me to do, Clint? I can't fix the past." No, you can't, I said, a sort of calm settling around my heart. I had prepared for this moment, rehearsed it in my mind hundreds of times when sleep eluded me. But I can. You see, I have a plan, and it's time you understand just how much damage you've done. Robert's face twisted in confusion and anger. What do you mean a plan? Are you threatening me? Is this some kind of joke to you? Not a joke, Robert. You see, I believe in consequences. You took everything from me, and it's time you felt the weight of that. I have everything ready, and I am not afraid to use it. This isn't just about revenge, it's about justice. As I spoke, I felt the conviction build within me, and the bitterness that had once covered my heart began to melt away under the intensity of my resolve. He shook his head as if trying to dislodge the weight of my words. You think you can scare me, Clint? You're just some poor guy who got his dreams crushed. What could you possibly have that I would fear? My lips twisted into a wry grin. Oh, you'd be surprised, Robert. I've learned a lot since everything went down. I know how to manipulate the very same systems that you weaponized against me. My heart raced. I could feel the thrill of finally feeling powerful after being the victim for so long. The air crackled around us. I took a step closer, lowering my voice into a conspiratorial whisper. Let's consider this. You have a very lucrative business here, but what happens when people start to wonder about the risks involved in dealing with you? What happens when your reputation begins to crumble? His eyes widened, a flicker of fear beneath the surface. You wouldn't dare. I absolutely would. Each word rolled off my tongue like poison, deliberate and careful. I've collected enough evidence, photographs, documents, everything to put you behind bars for a long time, and if people begin to dig into your operations. I let the sentence fade, allowing the threatening implications to hover in the air between us. Robert swallowed hard, the bravado crumbling. You're bluffing, he said, but the edge of anxiety in his voice was unmistakable. Am I asked, relishing every moment of his discomfort. You know it would take me little time to release everything I have to the authorities, but I am not a monster. I want you to have a chance. I want you to fix the mess you created. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice barely a whisper now, much smaller than the man I used to know. I want you to end the charade, Robert. I want you to come clean about what you did and the havoc you wreaked in my life. He began, but I raised a hand to silence him. Breathe, Robert. Look around. This is your moment to change and be a better man. I am not asking for pity or friendship. What I want is the truth and your acknowledgement of how you hurt me. And what if I refuse? His tone had gathered some of the confidence back, but the quaver in his voice told me he was still rattled. Then get ready, because I will unleash every bit of chaos I can muster to ensure you pay for your actions. It is that simple, I said, letting the weight of my resolve linger in the air between us. He remained silent, chewing his lip as uncertainty washed over his face, a scene I relished. Why are you doing this? He finally asked. Because I'm tired of being a victim. I'm tired of letting you control my life from the shadows. I felt strength rise within me with every word, the adrenaline spurring me into motion. It's my turn to take charge, and I'm not going to let fear dictate who I am anymore. Robert took a step back, his gaze darting around as if he were searching for an escape route. What if I just go to the police? Go ahead. You'll find nothing but your own name tied to the trails of corruption. I got all your records, and I've set it all up. My heart quickened at the finality of those words. It's your choice. Step up or watch your empire crumble. The wind rustled across the bridges, and I could see his gut churn with the turmoil of decision. Give me some time, Robert stammered, desperation filtering into his voice. I'm giving you that time, but it does not come without pressure. Once I leave here, I will make my own moves if I do not hear from you in 2 days. Make it meaningful, Robert. Okay, he replied finally, his voice shaking slightly. I will. Good, keep that in mind. With that, I turned and walked away, my heart soaring. Each step felt lighter and electric, the weight of 1,000 burdens lifting from my shoulders as I moved toward my freedom. The bridge creaked beneath my feet, an echo of the steps I had taken toward reclaiming my life. I was no longer the man burdened by revenge. I was a force to be reckoned with, and I had no intentions of looking back. I stood in the small, dimly lit garage, staring at the remnants of a car I had once loved. The engine was stripped down, its parts scattered haphazardly, each piece like a fragment of my shattered life after that day. The moment when Jason Stone, the unrepentant backstabber, had decided that a few extra dollars in his pocket were worth my trust. A bitter aroma of metal and grease filled the air, urging me to recall every detail of that fateful evening nearly a year ago. I grabbed a wrench, the weight solid and reassuring in my hand, as memories flooded back, sharp and painful. Hey, Clint, what do you say we take the old girl for a spin? Jason had grinned back then, his smile bathed in the afternoon sun, innocent and inviting. I had laughed, dismissing the notion at first. She's not ready for that yet, man. We need to sort the brakes. But Jason, with a stubbornness I had failed to appreciate, had insisted. Come on, just a few blocks, just to feel the road again. I had given in reluctantly, thinking it was harmless, a reminder of better times. Until the brake lines failed, the pedal went straight to the floor, and the crash sent us tumbling through an intersection. You were supposed to make sure that car was safe. I had screamed, adrenaline pumping, my heart racing as memories of wreckage and sirens filled the air. Look, man, it was just a freak thing. he would retort later, shrugging off my anger, unbothered by the precariousness of life and death. You can't hold me responsible. We took a risk together. His charming personality had betrayed me as easily as the failing brakes, and that day had altered everything for both of us. I gripped the wrench tighter, recalling the weight of embarrassment and humiliation. It had hurt deeper than any wound, knowing he had planned to sue me. I had been there for him through thick and thin, yet it took only one slip and a push against my character to unravel years of friendship. You think you can destroy me, Jason? I said aloud, surprising myself with the lilt of manic laughter that followed. My own voice echoed wildly, filling the space of the garage with its manic energy. I could hear it bounce off the concrete walls, the deafening silence of the aftermath resonating back. No, you have no idea how far I will go. Suddenly, the buzz of my phone shattered the suffocating memories. My sister Lily was calling. I flicked the screen and connected, my mind racing through the lies she might ask me to weave today. Clint. Are you busy? She asked, concern lacing her voice. Just working on the car, I replied, my voice gravelly, straining against the weight of my emotions. You know how it is. Are you still trying to fix that thing? Maybe you should just buy something new, she suggested gently, sensing my mood was anything but pleasant. Not yet, I murmured. Besides, rebuilding this is like rebuilding my life. It takes time. But my thoughts drifted back to my plan for revenge, a tiny spark igniting my words. But I may have a way to make it all right. Just a couple more days, Lil. I'm worried about you, Clint. You haven't been yourself since the accident, she said carefully. Each word felt like a fragile glass ornament, and I hated shattering her illusions. I took a deep breath, trying to control my tone, but the bitterness slipped through. I will be fine, I promise, just focusing on myself. Okay, just don't isolate yourself. Call me if you need to talk, she offered, her voice softening at the edges. I love you, you know. Yeah, I love you too. I promise I'll be all right. I hung up, the conversation leaving a dull ache in my stomach. Staring at the pieces of my car, I looked deep into its forlorn exterior, understanding it as a mirror of myself, broken but not yet beaten. Carefully, I placed the wrench back on the workbench and became focused, the next piece of my plan taking shape within the depths of my mind. Tonight was my opportunity. In my heart, I knew I needed to confront Jason, but I also needed clarity in my vengeance, something tangible to align with my growing obsession. I picked up my phone again, about to dial a number I had memorized. My friend Kyle, a tech-savvy wizard, had always been one to dabble in things he shouldn't. Hey, Kyle, I said when he answered. Clint, I'm surprised you called. You were off the grid for a minute there, he laughed, easygoing as always. Yeah, needed a break, I replied, trying to conceal the urgency beneath my words. Listen, I need a favor, and you are the best guy for the job. Lay it on me. I could hear the curiosity igniting in his tone. Jason Stone, I began slowly, every vowel imbued with a sense of foreboding. I need to know everything about him. His business, his schedule. I want to know where he will be tomorrow night. Dude, what is this for? You planning on confronting him? He asked, the playful tone now stitched with concern. Something like that, I evaded, my voice firm. Just trust me, all right. Kyle sighed heavily on the line. You know, Clint, you don't have to do this. You could walk away, just leave it be. You are above this. Above this, I laughed darkly. You don't know what it's like to be betrayed like this. I can't walk away until I make this right. Fine, I'll see what I can dig up. But this better not involve anything illegal, he warned lightly, like he could still save me from myself. I smirked, no promises. After hanging up, I returned to the car, reflecting on how far things had gone astray. When others might have taken the high road, I found myself brooding in the shadows of despair, planning, thinking, scheming. A new light coursed through my veins as excitement pulsed with each beat of my heart. Maybe I could turn the tides back in my favor. The day passed like molasses, each minute stretching painfully, breathlessly slow, until finally the evening crept in, howling its unpredictable mysteries. Adrenaline coursed through me, urging me onward. I had decided to shadow Jason, waiting for the right moment, the weak point in his predictable routine. The stones crunched beneath my boots with every step I took, outside the dimly lit cafe where he often met clients. I remembered our discussions, laughing over coffee and pastries, the great plans he had for us both. But now there was nothing but a searing need to confront him. I leaned against a nearby lamppost, cloaked by the night, my heart racing, ready to dive into whatever words would spill from my mouth when I finally faced him. What's the plan, Clint? I whispered to myself, pacing nervously. You want to settle the score, but how? Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, the excitement bubbling under my skin. Jason stepped out of the cafe with a confident swagger, his back to me, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. All right, you have your chance, I muttered, pushing myself away from the lamppost. I strode toward him as he pretended to check something on his phone. Jason, I called, letting my voice slice through the night air like a blade. He turned, eyes wide, a mix of surprise and amusement dancing across his face. Clint, what the hell are you doing here? His casual tone ignited the fury within me, that confident smirk almost taunting. I am here to talk, I said sharply, closing the space between us. The sounds of the bustling street around us faded into background noise, the air thickening with unspoken tension. Talk about what? How I broke your heart, he chuckled, still conceited and unaware of the storm swirling around him. No, Jason, I want to talk about what you did. The way you— Come on, man, it was an accident, you know that. He interrupted, flipping his phone closed, impatience shining through. An accident? Is that how you justify everything? You acted like a coward and you nearly ruined my life. My voice rose, carrying echoes of my turmoil through the night. Calm down, the cops cleared this, you know that. Stop being so dramatic. Dramatic, I scoffed, the anger boiling over as I took a step closer. You are clueless. You think I plan to end up here, feeling like this because of you. Whatever, man, this is getting old. He rolled his eyes, looking for an escape, and the hot fury surged through every inch of me, clenching my fists. Old, I threw back, my voice icy. No, what's old is you acting like nothing happened. You've turned your back on everything we built together. Friends don't do that. Get over it, Clint. It is what it is, he said dismissively, and in that moment something in me snapped. Is that really your answer? The stunned silence loomed heavy before he pushed past me dismissively. Summoning all my strength, I turned to him, the desperation coursing with clarity in my thoughts as I spat out the words, I will not let you walk away like that. Hold up, he exclaimed, turning, but this time it was too late for casual exchange. I trusted you, I shouted, all the repressed rage exploding like a firework. You crashed my life for your greed. Do you even realize how much I lost when everything fell apart? And in that moment I saw it in his eyes, a flicker of guilt, as if finally the weight of what he had done was crashing down upon him. Clint, no, you don't get to feign ignorance now. Look, I didn't mean for it to go like this. His words came a bit faster. No, you meant to get ahead, I interrupted, stepping forward, our faces nearly inches apart. It was just a stupid mistake, he protested, desperation creeping into his voice. A stupid mistake that cost me everything. I barked, my heart pounding like thunder in my chest, fretting between rage and relief. The truth of that moment hung pregnant in the air between us, the betrayal, the guilt, the remnants of what we had lost. All right, I messed up. What do you want from me? He demanded, surrendering some of his bravado, his defenses unwinding layer by layer. What did I want from him? A part of me wanted to see justice served, a measure of his own dread reflected back at him. The adrenaline coursed through my veins, the possibility of him groveling for forgiveness, a sliver of satisfaction dancing near. But I knew it was deceptive. I needed closure. I want you to admit what you did, fully, no excuses. His laugh was tight, forced. Admit it. I am sorry, man. I'm truly sorry, but it was never supposed to go this way. Sorry is not enough, Jason. I ground out with every ounce of contempt I could muster. You can't just brush this under the rug and forget. Your betrayal was calculated. Tell me what you wanted when you took that shortcut. He hesitated, his eyes darting around yet again. You don't understand. It's business. You were just collateral damage. No hard feelings, he shrugged, his chilling indifference only further igniting the fury tumbling in my stomach. Collateral damage. You view people as mere obstacles. You think any of this means anything to you. Think you were above it all. My frustration swelled. All the times we should have had each other's backs meant nothing to you. The pressure of my words left us standing on the precipice of a tense conclusion. A light, you are right, he conceded, a tremor tracing through his insincere tone. I lost sight of that. I made a terrible mistake, but I thought we could move beyond this. We're men, we can handle this scenario. You don't need to take this further. What do you mean, moving beyond this? Do you think I am going to let you walk away without consequences? Clint, I am sorry. What do you need from me to fix this? I can make it up to you. Make it up, I let out a dark laugh. How do you intend to do that? By pretending nothing ever happened. You can't erase the destruction you've left in your wake. All right, so what then? My thoughts raced as I searched for an answer. But there was no answer strong enough to wash away the depth of his betrayal or extinguish the flames of my growing desire for justice. You will face the consequences. I just have to figure out how much pain you need to feel. His face paled slightly. Clint, I didn't think. That is the problem, Jason, I reasserted, my voice low and steady as I laid the gravity of my anger before him unabashedly. You never thought about anyone but yourself, and now it's time for the repercussions to shape your reality. He froze, the confidence slipping from his features, the chilling realization dawning upon him as panic clouded his eyes. Remember this night, Jason. I'm just getting started, and the road from here on out, it is going to be rough for you. And with that declaration, I turned my back on him, walking away into the night, the fear lingering behind me like a specter. The thrill of my growing vendetta thrummed in my veins, every step taking me closer to my reckoning. The first light of dawn crept in through the frost-kissed window, casting a pale glow across the room I had turned into my war room. Piles of notes and photographs cluttered my desk, remnants of a painstaking strategy that had consumed my life for weeks. I stared at the wall, a mess of red strings connecting images of those I held responsible for everything I had lost. My thoughts tangled with audible breaths lingering in the air, transforming my quiet yet chaotic space into a battlefield, where feelings of revenge and justice overlapped. The wooden chair creaked under my weight as I sat back, exhausted yet prepared. Today is the day, I murmured to myself. It was less a statement than a mantra meant to fortify my resolve. I picked up my phone, its screen flashing to life, and checked the time. 7 in the morning. The sun was rising over Breezeville, a sight I had taken plenty of walks to witness, but nostalgia was absent today. All I felt was a rush of adrenaline as the memories of betrayal threatened my mental stability. I was ready to face them. I took a deep breath and headed out the door. The crisp air stung my lungs as I stepped onto the icy pavement. The neighborhood around me was shrouded in quiet, an ordinary, peaceful morning that felt surreal in contrast to the storm I was about to unleash. I made my way towards my target, the old mill just at the outskirts of town where my former friends, once brothers, had turned against me. With each step, I visualized my approach. What will I say? I asked myself, replaying the scenarios in my head. Would I start with angry words, or would I catch them off guard with calmness? I knew them well enough: Nicholas, Jake, and Rachel. All of them were irresponsible dreamers when we were together, our bonds forged in a fire of youthful ambition and ill-fated decisions. Now they were mere shadows of the people I once cared about. As I arrived at the mill, its dilapidated facade loomed over me, a massive reminder of our past. Once a vibrant symbol of our dreams, every corner now exuded a sense of despair, mirroring my heart. My footsteps crunched against the gravel, breaking the silence, each step echoing with resentment and fury. The door was slightly ajar, a faint light revealing the chatter of familiar voices. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding like a drum as I prepared myself for the confrontation of a lifetime. Then I pushed it open. The scent of rust and damp wood flooded my senses, and I stepped into their world, the world they thought they had reclaimed, the kingdom built from betrayal. Nicholas, with his overgrown beard and patient demeanor, was leaning on the workbench, chatting away with Jake, whose laughter filled the room with a bubbling echo. Rachel was perched on a stool, her phone in hand, lost in the digital universe that seemed to fit her better than reality. "Oh, look who decided to join us," Jake said, his smirk twisting my gut. "Thought we'd have to send out a search party." "Very funny, Jake," I replied, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head. "I came here to talk." "Oh, we're not interested in talking," Rachel chimed in, twirling her hair as if she were back in high school. "We've moved on, Clint. You should too." "I wouldn't be here if you'd left me alone," I said forcefully, every word a precise shot aimed at their hearts. "I didn't forget what you did to me." Nicholas straightened up, his expression shifting from humor to something more serious. "Clint, it was just business. You cannot take it so personally. We had decisions to make, and it was for the best." "For the best," I echoed. "You threw me under the bus. After everything we went through, you thought your own gain justified destroying me. That's a twisted way to think. Perhaps if you had thought about your future like we did," Jake countered, losing the lightheartedness in his tone. "Maybe you wouldn't be so bitter right now." "Bitter? No, I'm just here to get the end of this," I replied, steps closer to them, although uncertainty gnawed at my mind. Rage simmered, but beneath it lay something deeper, sadness that lingered like frost on the edges of a flame. "What do you want, Clint?" Rachel finally asked, her voice softer but still laced with an edge. "We can't change the past. No one can. Just let it go. Let it go." The words rolled around in my head, tauntingly familiar. "It's not that easy, Rachel. You don't understand. This isn't just about what happened. It's about trust and friendship, values tossed aside as easily as you tossed me out." Silence settled between us, weighty and unyielding. "I came here to confront you," I continued. "But also what?" Nicholas prompted, taking a half step forward. "Also to offer you a choice." The words tumbled out, each weighted with a mixture of restraint and vengeance. "You can either make amends, or I can expose every detail. I have everything: emails, messages, even recordings of the conversations you thought had no consequences." They exchanged glances, a silent conversation brimming with tension. I did not want to resort to this, but here I was, a puppet master in a game I never signed up for. "What do you mean?" Jake asked, pulling his head back as if the revelation physically hit him. "You all think you are untouchable," I said, my confidence blooming. "But the truth is, a village like Breezeville hides secrets like it hides its stars. I did my homework, and I will make sure the truth is unveiled if I have to." Rachel scoffed. "You wouldn't dare. You can't, Clint. That would ruin your reputation even more than it would ruin ours. You've already lost everything." "Everything? No, I'm gaining my life back, piece by piece," I asserted, my voice gaining clarity. They needed to understand that I was no longer the victim cowering in the shadows. "And what do you expect us to do?" Nicholas asked, his tone shifting from defensive to contemplative. "Apologies are all well and good, but that's not enough. You need to feel what I felt. You need to understand the fear of losing everything you loved and valued." I paced, a whirlwind fueled by the memories that replayed like a film looping in my mind. A silence stretched on, each of them processing my words, shifting shadows of unease creeping into their expressions. I felt the gravity of my emotions rock through the air, creating an invisible tension that tied us together in this crumbling mill. "Different from who you knew years ago," I said softly. "And believe it or not, I don't want to ruin you. I want you to understand what you took from me. You broke my spirit, and I will not hide that any longer." "What do you want in return?" Rachel asked finally, her voice softer now, and I could see cracks forming in their armor. "I want you to acknowledge what you did, all of you," I replied. I want you to show Breezeville the truth of who you are now and the reality of your choices. Stand before our town and confess, be honest for once. Clint, you don't think it has been easy for us, do you? Nicholas interjected, sincerity rising in his voice. We didn't want to, but you did, I cut him off sharply. And now you have a chance to fix it. You have a chance to become the people you swore you were, back when loyalty mattered more than self-interest. The conversation hung in the air, heavy like the fog rolling in from the nearby hills. I thought I'd been prepared for their indifference. I rehearsed their reactions and braced myself for their denials. But what I saw was different. Uncertainty clouded their faces, and the aura around them began to warp with a kind of vulnerability I had never seen before. How can we trust you? Jake asked, crossing his arms defensively at first, but shifting slightly as if confronting a new perspective. You can't, trust takes time, but I'm offering you a chance to redeem yourselves in front of the community. You have to choose your path now. Rachel stood, her hand on her hip, staring into my eyes as though searching for something within. You're serious about this, aren't you? More than ever, I responded. You have the power to make this right. It's your move. Nicholas glanced around the mill, and I could see gears turning in his mind. We need some time to think. Time, I exclaimed, frustration bubbling beneath my calm exterior. Time is something you took from me. You've always had the luxury of time. I do not. What do you want us to do then? Rachel challenged. Storm the town hall and scream our apologies. Maybe, I said, half joking, but with a kernel of hope buried in the suggestion. Then I turned serious. What if you organized a town meeting? Openly invite the community to face your decisions. They will see who you really are now. Clint, Jake said, his tone dipped in confusion. You know it won't be that simple. Really, I replied, raising an eyebrow. You think it will be worse than living in the shadows of guilt, worse than pretending everything is all right while you go back every night wondering if you will be exposed. Stop hiding behind the facade, face the consequences, and take the opportunity into your own hands. I need time to discuss this with them, Nicholas spoke, and I could hear the sincerity trapped within his words. The uncertainty radiated from them, and deep down I recognized the flicker of the friends I once had. Perhaps there was a way out of this storm of bitterness. Fine, I regretted my sharpness. I will give you a day. Just remember, when I return, I expect honesty, not excuses. I turned away, the air heavy as I started to exit. Clint, Rachel's voice stopped me just before I reached the door. I looked back at them. The wave of emotions crashed over me as I saw them trying to gather the pieces of themselves I had once known. I didn't know it was that serious for you, she admitted, her voice trailing off softly, unexpectedly sincere. I took a deep breath. It was the difference between living and surviving. Leaving the mill felt heavier than entering it. I closed the door slowly, stepping back out into the cold morning light. Shivering under the weight of what had just transpired, I grappled with the uncertainty of whether I had truly let go of my anger or merely contained it. The dawn illuminated my path as I walked down the familiar streets of Breezeville. People, routines, and the past met me a mere heartbeat away. I thought of Nicholas, Jake, and Rachel. I had antagonized them in hopes of finding resolution, but perhaps my aggression had also planted seeds of healing. Hope flickered, lifting a corner of my heart, strange yet hopeful, mingling with the resolve that roared within. Would they take the leap? Would they fight for what they once believed in, or would they succumb to the darkness? Either way, the game had changed, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the stirring of possibility.